You guys are gonna make me cry already. I haven't even started. Okay, let's see. I didn't arrive at journalism school the most impressive student. I didn't get a scholarship or win awards. In fact, I had no valuable journalism experience. I did have valuable margarita making experience because before I came to journalism school, I was a bartender. I cried the first time Tim Harper sent us out on assignment in craft class. I cried a lot in Tim Harper's class, but I digress. I didn't think I can do it. I didn't think I was knowledgeable enough or grizzled enough to be the kind of journalist you imagine when you imagine a journalist. But the teachers here kept pushing me. They believed I could become a new kind of journalist, and my classmates believed it too. One of the most special parts of journalism school is being surrounded by classmates who are curious and compassionate, peers who care about the world. When I started working after graduation, I would get that familiar first day in Tim Harper's class, teary, imposter, hyperventilating feeling all the time. I still get that feeling. And I'm really awful at meditation. When I'm having a meltdown at work, I cannot picture myself at the beach. So I picture myself in the third floor newsroom, surrounded by people imagining what kind of journalist they want to be. Yes, you heard me correctly. The third floor newsroom is my happy place. Did you guys ever think that would happen when you made a journalism school in Times Square? It's true though. I'll give you some background on why I think I was asked to be the alumni speaker at this year's commencement, a great honor. It has to do with Britney Spears. Yeah! During the pandemic, I directed my first feature-length documentary, Framing Britney Spears, for the New York Times. It streamed on FX and Hulu. It was a runaway success, a flabbergasting, all-out Tiger King style, everyone quarantined and watching it at the same time hit. And I imagine some of that is because we took a story that everyone thought they knew and flipped it on its head. Now, I can't take all the credit. One of the best parts was getting to do it in a big team. It reminded me of my J-School days. In fact, I got to hire Melanie Ben-Cosme, class of 2014, to work with me on the project. And she nailed it, by the way. She nailed it. I learned the greatest lessons of my career while making that documentary, so I thought I would share them with you. In spring of 2020, my smart and talented colleague Liz Day pitched the idea of revisiting early 2000s media coverage of Britney Spears through the lens of today. Honestly, when I got the assignment, I groaned. I didn't want to make another story about a two-dimensional woman victimized by men. All I really knew about Britney Spears was that she was a person who became a punchline, a teenager in a schoolgirl uniform, and a pop star who shaved her head. When I started researching for the project, I found it difficult to watch so many hours of footage of journalists essentially humiliating a young woman. It struck a nerve with me because I had been laughed at a lot as a kid. I had been shamed for my sexuality and bullied for the way my brain and I existed in the world. And it seemed it was universally okay to make fun of and shame Britney Spears. Which brings me to lesson number 1, set ground rules. I was nervous to do it, but at our first group meeting, I asked everyone to agree that we would never make fun of Britney Spears. Not in the filming, not in the editing, not even in personal conversation. I cannot overstate how much this automatically made our coverage different. Lesson number 2, find new people to interview. Looking at coverage of Britney, I realized almost all of the framing of her story was done by men, and almost all of the people interviewed about her were men. It made me want to do a simple experiment. What would happen if we interviewed women? It was revolutionary. Britney was no longer a teenage puppet who needed to be taken care of. She was an ambitious young person with agency. She had Olympic athlete-level discipline, was business savvy, and made key creative decisions. She was the boss. This stood in such contrast to the narrative about her we all knew, and the literal lack of agency she had under her conservatorship. Which leads me to lesson number 3, the most important lesson. Don't report on other people's reporting. Don't report on other people's reporting. No matter how many people come to the same conclusion or repeat the same narrative, start from scratch. So I realized I knew why people hated Britney Spears, but I didn't know why they loved her. So I set out to talk to some fans. They were not as enthusiastic about talking to me. Journalists had characterized them as conspiracy theorists who thought Britney was sending messages through her Instagram and written them off. But in our conversations, they kept bringing up the same thing. How could a performing pop star be unable to make basic decisions for herself, like who she interacted with or how she spent her money? How could a woman making millions of dollars and employing hundreds of people be in a legal situation meant for those who can't feed, clothe, or shelter themselves? They had a point, and journalists had missed it for years. It's pretty easy to quote highly paid lawyers or PR people. Britney's fans were outsiders. They were queer people who, like Britney, had been shamed for their sexuality. They had mental health issues and substance use issues, and like Britney, had been bullied. It was pretty easy to dismiss what those people were saying, just like it was pretty easy to dismiss what Britney herself had been saying. But once we started reporting out the claims they made, the public narrative unraveled. Framing Britney Spears forced an unexpected cultural reckoning. The weekend our film aired, "We Are Sorry, Britney" trended on social media. It hasn't been okay to make fun of Britney Spears since then. I think it shows the power of what can happen when you take a step back, give people who have been dismissed the benefit of the doubt, and reframe a narrative that was repeated so often people assumed it was true. At its core, isn't that what journalism is about? I'm really excited to see what kind of journalists you all become, especially given the unique sensitivity that going to J school during a pandemic has afforded you. I bet you'll look at things differently. I bet you'll reframe the narrative. Congratulations.